I think the very first time that I struggled with anxiety was, I can remember, third grade. And ever since then, I have had a real battle with anxiety. It really peaked and got really bad in my first couple of years of motherhood. And I remember wondering a couple of things. One, is this ever going to stop? Am I always going to be anxious? I'd been in counseling for 9 years. I just didn't understand why I hadn't figured it out. And the second part to that was, am I going to pass this on to my daughters? Are my kids going to grow up and be anxious? And it was a really big fear of mine, which just kind of added into the loop of anxiety that I was already in. And I am so proud and so excited to share that after 16 years, it's probably more than that, but 16 years of anxiety, motherhood healed me. It healed my anxiousness. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, how did motherhood heal you? There is this moment for me, there was this moment of realization through going to parenting coaching school that anxiety did not define me. It was always going to be a part of my life. I, my patterns, how I was raised, all of that really set me into an anxious state, but I was not a victim to my life. I was not a victim to anxiety. And so if I could go back and tell my younger self something, these are the 10 things I would tell myself. This is the 10 pieces of advice that I would give to my younger self. I really wished I had had a friend, somebody who understood, who got it. And this is the video that I've been searching for years, that I've just so wanted and really wished that, I don't know, somebody could have told me, something that I could have heard. I'm going to straight up tell you, obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not any of that. This is just my personal real life experience. And so some of these things may feel awesome and might feel really supportive, while others feel a bit daunting and scary. And that's okay. Start where you are at and do what feels good and what feels comfortable. Don't worry about doing all 10 of these things. This is a video that I hope that you bookmark, one that you add to your watch later, so this way you can come back to again and again and again and just be reminded of all the ways that you don't have to struggle. You don't have to be victim to anxiety. So the very first thing that I would go back and do is evaluate my expectations. Really figure out what is realistic versus what is made up. Am I just in what if land? Am I in these expectations that are just so hard to meet that I would never actually meet? And for me, understanding that usually 9 times out of 10, my expectations were way beyond what somebody could, or a mother could or should be meeting, I started to realize that my anxiousness was very much attached to my productivity, how much I was getting done. And I needed to see and I needed to hear what was normal. And that's so much of what you'll get on this channel. If you enjoy this kind of content, hit that subscribe button, because yeah, I want to really bring to life. I want it to be very realistic of what life looks like, what motherhood looks like. So you're not led astray. So you're not feeling like you're seeing all these influencers and maybe even just friends, family that you know, and they're telling you this is realistic. Even developmentally, if you go to the pediatrician, they're like, oh, your child should be here. It's like, let's really evaluate that. Is my child need to be there? You know, maybe statistically, but statistics are statistics and some kids are just behind and, you know, whatever. So anyway, I would really evaluate and get to know and understand my expectations and make sure that they're realistic and they're right for me, not necessarily right for everybody else. Okay, the second thing, I keep looking over here because I have my notes. The second thing is learning nervous system regulation, which the next 2, 3 things are going to be actionable things you can do. But I did not realize how stuck I was in fight or flight. I just was constantly in this. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've been on this journey of actually healing my anxiety for over a year. It's almost a year and a half. And I still have days where I'm just stuck in fight or flight, or seasons where I'm stuck in fight or flight. And I think it's really important to know and acknowledge that that can be true. That just because you're working on your anxiety doesn't mean that, because you haven't experienced it in a little while, whatever that may be for you, doesn't mean it's never going to come back and that it's wrong that it is back. For me, there was this huge moment of acceptance that this is the way anxiety is for me. I experience it. And so really coming to an understanding and to grips with what my nervous system was needing. I was so depleted, and ensuring that I was giving myself that regulation and not always giving out, which is something as mothers we're constantly doing. With that, I started looking at anxiety not as a problem, but rather just like a red flag. Like, am I feeling really anxious right now over something medically? Because maybe I need to look into something deeper. Anxiety, I believe for me, has been a coping mechanism to protect myself, to keep myself safe. I feel like if I'm productive enough, if I'm doing enough, I won't have to see the really hard thoughts, my subconscious thoughts that are so scary for me. So, the third thing that I would do in healing my anxiety, regulating that nervous system, is chiropractic care. I did an entire podcast episode where I interviewed my chiropractor and we talked through just how beneficial it can be. But I did not realize I was in fight or flight until I went into chiropractic care. And that was kind of my jump start and my kickstart into really getting myself out of that constant state. If you want to hear more of that story, like I said, I recorded a whole podcast episode, which I think is so relatable and so understandable, especially if you have fears or anxiety about the chiropractor, which was me. I was so, I couldn't even get myself to think about going to the chiropractor. And then it's now my best friend. I absolutely love it. Okay, the fourth thing that I would do is somatics. I have talked about somatics so much on here. These are exercises that help you to regulate and calm your body. And when I started doing these, I started only doing these about 6 months ago, by the way. I This was like the first time I actually experienced calm, like full on calm. My body has never experienced this level of calm. And so it was so cool and so eye opening and honestly addictive to feel this sense of calm. And this is where I really learned what it felt like to be in a calm state versus in a constantly fight or flight, anxious, freeze kind of a state. And that is going to be key in helping you to get over your anxiety, because your body needs to learn what it feels like to be in calm, especially if you've been in an anxious anxiety kind of state for years and years and years. Your body may not even have any idea what it would feel like to be calm. And for me, that was incredible. It was kind of the coolest gift, because I, for the first time, learned what it felt like to not be up here and rather just kind of being able to just be. Which leads me to the fifth thing, which is to slow down. I am such a advocate for slow-ish. That's why I named my channel life, because for me, when I slow down, like not multitasking, not being worried about having 1,000 things on my to-do list, it has helped me to be the kind of mother and the person that I want to be. And I feel a ton less anxious when I have a slower pace of life. So that's been huge too. Okay, the sixth thing, I think I'm on number six, that I started doing was eating consistently. I have been following a pro-metabolic diet for about 3 years. And even within that, I really struggle with eating consistently, eating every 2 to 3 hours. And so when I notice that I haven't eaten, I typically try to eat something because I know that if I haven't nourished my body, I'm more likely going to get anxious. Within this eating consistently thing, I also realized that I have two gene mutations, and they cause me to not be able to break down certain vitamins and minerals. And so I have started supplementing with real forms of that, and that has been helping exponentially. So that might be something you want to look into as well. I have the MTHFR gene, I think that's how you say it, and then I have the PEMT gene, which means I don't break down folate or choline. So you might want to look into something like that. You can get your genes tested. I actually did mine through, I can't think of what it is. It's like Gen8. Back when I was pregnant, they did that for me to kind of see where I was, and then I brought those results to my doctor. But yeah, that could be an option as well. I did work with them several years ago and really enjoyed their stuff. But I also just looked on my ancestry, and I went into my genes and typed in and saw which genes I had and how they were mutated. It's a little bit of Googling, but you can figure it out if you've already done ancestry. Okay, the next thing, number 7, is learning to find safety in my body. And that kind of goes along with all the things that I just said previously, but learning how to find true, real, deep safety meant that I need to restructure my life. I needed to restructure how I did things. I really needed to focus on finding safety versus constantly doing what I thought everybody else would want me to do. For instance, maybe one evening I am really feeling stressed out, and I know that when I go to events or places, I get more anxious. And so maybe going to church for me is not a thing I'm going to do this Wednesday night. Doesn't make me bad. That doesn't make me less of a Christian, doesn't make me any of that, which is what I told myself that I needed to go. Rather, let me go deep within myself and let me stay home and maybe let me read my Bible or let me journal, or maybe it's just spending time as a family to really help to reconnect myself and give myself what I'm needing. So finding safety within the body can look different for everybody, and can even vary day to day, minute to minute. But allowing yourself to actually find that safety, which for me I did with Somatics. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but I love the workout, which that's who I do my Somatics through. I do have a link below, which is an affiliate link, which means I make a small commission off of it. But I asked her if I could be an affiliate. I didn't. She didn't reach out to me. I absolutely love her stuff. It has been absolutely life changing. Okay, number 8, anchoring the breath. I did a video recently on anchoring the breath, and so I will link that here somewhere, so that way you guys can go check it out. But learning how to breathe, especially when breathing does not work. This was me, I believe, like breathing did not work for me. It took me having to, one, know what it feels like to feel calm, to know how to get myself in that calm state, which was safety, and then learning how to anchor my breath with visualizations, with a literal visual of an anchor, going so deep within my body that I began to feel calm. This was life changing. It helps me to ground myself in every moment, especially before when my kids are having a moment, when they are really struggling. I need to anchor myself. I need to calm myself down, even though their emotions are incredibly uncomfortable for me. If I can anchor myself and calm myself down, I can show up as the mother that I really want to be. And again, that's what I teach here on this channel. Okay, the 9th thing, we're almost there. We got one more after this, is accepting my triggers. I mean, probably first is identifying them, but most of us who have anxiety know what is triggering us or have an idea. And for me, it was just accepting that I get triggered around medical things. I get triggered around money. I get triggered around future, and really uh, bubbling myself during my healing process to not be engaged in those kinds of things. For instance, I, for a really long time, couldn't watch anything that talked about medical issues. I'll just stay like that. And so I didn't watch any TV shows. I really didn't like do anything on Instagram or YouTube, Facebook. I really kept myself pretty sheltered from it all. And that really helped me though to find that safety and that healing. And then I just kind of gently would start like bringing it in. I actually had like asked my husband, hey, is there a good show we could watch? And I knew that I'd be watching it with him. And so he could help me through that if I was feeling kind of anxious. But yeah, really accepting that those are your triggers. This is what triggers you. And for me, that acceptance piece was like almost critical in helping me to actually quiet that anxiety. And so, the very last thing, the 10th thing that I would recommend anybody who has anxiety to do is to begin understanding your childhood. Look into things like attachment, understand how your brain works, understand why you are the way you are is most likely because of how you were parented or the energy of your parents. For me, the energy of my parents was constant productivity and constant go, go, go. There was no downtime. We had no slowness. And so no wonder why I get so anxious so quickly. My mom is a very anxious person, and no fault of hers, but it did come to me. I took that on as well. And so understanding that maybe this anxiety isn't even mine, maybe it's hers. And it's kind of that generational anxiety, which is something that I learned about in The Body Keeps Score. It's not necessarily mine to carry, but I'm carrying it because it's passed down through generations. And so there is hope. There is so much hope. There's this thing called neuroplasticity. If you don't know what it is, I will link something below for you. But this is where you can rewire that brain. And it doesn't just happen like this, by the way. It's going to take days and years and months. I guess I said that weird. Days, months, years is how I meant to say that, to really get a grip on what is going on for you. Why are you so anxious? And then using new tools and new patterns to rewire that. And, I asked myself for so long, I've been in counseling for 9 years. Why the heck can't I get this right? Why can't I get over anxiety? And I think because we had danced for so long in the past, and we talked so little about how to overcome that, how to heal from that, how to really, move forward in that. And so I'm so grateful for counseling because it really helped to give me an understanding. But I really needed a coach, which I didn't realize there was even a difference there, but I really needed a coach to help me to move forward and to realize that I could get myself out of this terrible cycle and circle that I'm in, and really, rewire that brain. And there are actionable things that I could do. I just needed to figure out what it was for me. And so, it's been so life changing to experience a life without anxiety. And like I'm gonna say again and again and again, it's not like it's ever gone. Like I feel like anxiety is something it's kind of my cross to bear. Is that how you say that? Yeah. It's something that I feel like I'm gonna have for the rest of my life, but it is on a scale that is like so little now. Like I just experienced anxiety actually last week, and it hadn't been months since I experienced anxiety. And so it's possible. It's widening that window of tolerance. It's constantly widening, so that way we don't have to experience it as much. So I want to encourage you today that if you are a mama who struggles with anxiety, who's worried she's going to pass this on to your child, I want you to know that there is hope. There's so much you can be doing, and this list is really just something to get you started. I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours because I'm so passionate about helping moms to get past these real struggles and issues that they struggle with in motherhood. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you struggle with anxiety, I encourage you to comment below. And with that being said, happy parenting.